Greeting family, welcome to Trinity Wiseman Inspiration. Today we're going to listen to Prophet Emmanuel Makadiwa teaching us about the promise of God. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Stay blessed. See you on the next one. Shalom.
There's a difference between lands. When a land is a promised land and the other land is just a land, those lands are different. There's a difference between a land that is just a land and a land that is a promised one. A promised land, the promise of the land given to you, or promise for the land given to you by God. The promise becomes the title deed. It's an official allocation of a piece of land by God. You are given a place where you belong. What's so special about Israel getting into the promised land? Yet we have people already occupying the promised land that never had the promise of that land. There were Canaanites in the promised land. And yet Canaan was never promised to those Canaanites. Where's the difference? Okay, you didn't get that part. I'll try it one more time. You see, when God promises you a piece of land, and God gives you a promise before he gives you the land, what comes is a revelation. What comes is a dream. You are inspired by God. Somehow you know I occupy space in the future. Now, once a space has been found in the future, you are guaranteed of presence. God would not find a place for you within the future that you are not a part of. It's a guarantee of existence that since I've found a place for you in the future, you are guaranteed of being a partaker of the future that is coming. So God, by promising you land, he's promising you existence. He's promising you long life. No matter you get sick today, you are guaranteed of space in the future. So these are things that helps you recover from the intensive care unit. You are sick and they say there's no more future for you, and you are reminded of a space that was procured for you by faith, through faith in the future. This is what brings people from coma. This promise is given to them. Remember, I told you before that God, in a revelation, God had told Paul that I will make you stand before kings and declare my name. And Paul, before he could stand before kings, he was caught up in a storm. And he was so sure, this cannot be my time. I cannot die now. I cannot face a storm and face death and face grave and face a coffin before I can face a king. He was so sure, if everyone, even if a snake is to bite me, it cannot kill me because I have a revelation. I saw myself standing before kings. And before that can happen, I can't die. You see, promises, they preserve you. Promises, they give you courage. You go to bed knowing that tomorrow is coming. My morning is still coming. Are you following this? A promise is a remedy. A promise is a medication. You are guaranteed of being there. Sit down, let me show you something. So when God promises you land, he says this land is yours. And then you peep into the land, you see but they are already occupants. The people in the land never got the promise. What they got was the land. So their future in that location is not guaranteed. I'm talking of God promising you something today that somebody is already in possession of. The fact that they have it doesn't make it theirs. What makes it theirs is the promise. The promise. No. Okay. All right. I have to let this generation know, because you feel like the world has already been taken over from you. You feel like somehow there is no more space for you. These guys are like Elon Musk, they seem like they've taken over. But the question has to be, did God give them the promise? Or they are simply occupying space? Because whilst you are still a sojourner, coming through the wilderness from the land of captivity, still there is need for people to occupy your land until you arrive. And God will put people in those places without giving them a promise for such places. So you come knowing that with your God-given ability, when you start dispossessing people of their possession, you are not robbing them. Because what you are bringing from the land of captivity is a title deed. You are the rightful owner of the place, of the occupation, of the career. What you got from God was a promise that you will become a force in that space. So whilst you are away, they are allowed to practice. You are following this? Now, sit down. Let me show you something. The difference between the promised land and any other land, both are lands, but the promised one is different in this sense. The promised one is owned. You see, when you stay in a promised land, a land given to you by God, even when you are dispossessed, when it's taken away from you, the person to occupy the land will have to deal with certain forces. Because the promised land is given to the one who got the promise. So you entering into the promised land, that becomes a marriage. Okay? That place is no longer just a place, it's a synergy. It's where power meets. God, the giver of the promise, the one promised, which is you, and the land that was promised. You coming because God's eye is over the land. He says from the beginning of the year until the end, my eye is upon this city. So when God gives you a territory, He is the giver of the promise. You are the receiver of the promise. And the land is the promised one. So when you are in that location now, things work together for good. In such a place, you are in a place that God has ordained for you. Things work out so well. Though you will have challenges, you will have difficulties, but this is what happens. When an enemy comes and he drags you out of your God-given territory, and he makes a mistake of occupying it, the land has been empowered by God to fight its occupants. That is why at some point they investigated, they spied the land, and they came back saying, the land eats up its own inhabitants. The land that we saw, it has inhabitants, but we saw them being eaten up. Apart from people eating each other, the land, if it's a promised land, and somebody comes and he occupies your promised space, it will weary them down. Whether I know this from experience, if God has given me a space to occupy, even in ministry, and somebody comes and he tries to dispossess me and he occupies, the space will weary that individual. Now, the Bible talks about the land. It eats up its own inhabitants. In as much as the people that we saw, they were giants, but we could see that they are suffering. The land is making them suffer somehow. They are not living a normal life. Why? Because the promised land is waiting for the rightful owners. So they will have to wait until the job is done by the rightful owner. Until your product hits the market. Those that are trying to satisfy the market will always be overwhelmed by the demand. All right. Sit down. Let me show you this part. Let me show you this part.
Numbers 13:32. The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof.
Okay, imagine how many people right now are being eaten up simply because they occupied lands that were never promised them. This is a warning not just to them, but to some of you here, so that you identify your rightful place, where you function with clarity and the occupation doesn't overwhelm you. You don't die simply because of a job. Are you following this? Yes. So you have to identify the promised land. But then the problem is, God is not very specific. Each and every one of you here, you are having this same problem that Abraham had with God, of not being clear. I want to know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Why isn't there clarity? Why is it difficult to meet a man of God who can tell you exactly? You know, people are good at telling you what you're doing wrong. If you're in a wrong area, you are told. If you marry a wrong one, they tell you you can't marry that kind. This. Okay, all right. So which one? When it gets to which one exactly, it's up to you again to go ahead and choose. But you marry a wrong one, everyone can see that, this was a wrong decision. That revelation, everyone around you can see. There is no clarity as to the exact location. Where do I find the promised land?